Tolstoy Kafkaevsky here, talking about things that nobody cares, wearing them things that nobody wears. Woo! So, I actually got a pretty half-decent request from one of my fans. It wasn't for a DS Lite review. That's an old gag from like 2004. It doesn't even make any sense anymore. Anyway, yeah, so a good free review to do. This guy, actually, a lot of my favorite kind of fans were really impressed with my graphic novel collection and me talking about, you know, my favorite comic books that I collected over the years. And somebody asked, well, conversely, could you do one involving straight up just literature? Fuck yeah, I could. First and foremost, I have to be honest. I don't really collect a lot of literature anymore. I don't really read a lot, even though it's like kind of on my list of like things to do. I just can't find the time. A lot of people don't read anymore. The majority of what I read is like textbook factual, so I like really going on to Wikipedia at night, boozing up, and then going and checking out the history of whatever. And that's to come to a complete stop, because I've made a change in my life and decided I gotta stop drinking, as much as I was, anyway. And it's not for any reason like, oh, I'm an alcoholic and I hate my violence, just because of all the weight that I was putting on. I believe the caloric, like the scale of calories in like 100% alcohol, which you can't drink undiluted, but the closest thing you can drink, like in a little bit of Coca-Cola, is Everclear. It's 95% alcoholic or 295 proof. 1 ounce of that is 200 calories. I drink something that's about half that powerful, usually around 50% alcoholic Tanqueray or Wild Turkey whiskey, and so that would be 100 calories for every ounce. And I usually drink about 2 or 3 4-ounce shots, so you do the math. That's about 1,200 calories on average, stacked on top of whatever else I was eating. So that's done. So I'm going to try to get back into shape, doing a shit ton more cardio. I think I'm a lot happier doing cardio than I am doing weight training. Not that I don't try to do a little bit of setups and the push-ups, but the because I'm built like a kangaroo, because of my work requiring me to like stand for 12 hours a day. The fact that I've, you know, just grown up with stronger legs and stronger top parts. Not that I'm like super proud of that, just that I realized that in the morning my muscles sort of hurt a little bit from doing curls, but my legs don't give a shit for running for like 30 minutes, because my legs are just built that way. Anyway, I don't know how we got on this subject. Oh, right, well, without drinking, I probably won't be as interested in like reading history and going on the internet and fooling around. It's super fun. It like expands your attention span for weird, pointless details on the internet. But still, I probably won't spend a lot of my time reading novels. I did a lot of that when I was, from the time that I was like really interested in actually reading. Not that I wasn't always. I mean, I did grow up with a few like favorites that I, you know, had read, but the point is it never really became like something I really liked to do to relax and to go to sleep until about 8th grade. 8th grade for me was when the school system actually put decent books on the reading list. First of all, and I don't mean to be controversial with a subject that you wouldn't think Tolstoy could be able to get in trouble with just a subject like, alright, how is it going to be controversial concerning books? But alright, here we go. The school system pretty much threw out, mostly in high school, threw out good literature and then just adopted shit literature in what I think is a move to like placate black people. You know, like, first of all, it's probably going to insult every black fan I know, Maya Angelou is shit. End of story. I read her work, I thought it was crap, and basically, throughout all of high school, all they ever try to shove down your throat is, "You're white, feel sorry for black people." I'm like, come on. Come the fuck off it. Now, that doesn't, now, conversely, or like Native Son, not a huge fucking fan of that. And that's coming from me, and you know what I mean? Like, I like Rage, and so you would think that, like, me being such a fan of Rage Against the Machine, and at that time being, like, so fucking angsty that I would just, like, love Native Son. Like, that was shit, dude. Seriously. Sula, that's another one. I kind of like that one only because it's, like, really actually lowbrow and Saw-esque. Sula, go ahead and read that. It's just about violence, really. I mean, like, I think someone gets burned alive, a boy gets thrown off a bridge. But then again, there's a lot of literature they make you read, like Catcher in the Rye. That's crap too. Which is weird because someone once compared me to Holden Caulfield, like on the internet. He was all like, "You know what you are? You're just a Holden Caulfield. That's why you like that book so much." And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, you watched that episode of Family Guy where Quagmire compares the dog to Holden Caulfield, so it's funny that you just compared our characters, me to Brian, saying, "Oh, I bet you this insult will work." I never liked Catcher in the Rye. I don't understand the point of the book. I think people put too much emphasis in it and thinking it's such a great book. And actually, there was a better movie based off of that called Finding Forrester, which was, I think, a metaphor for the way that, who's the guy who wrote that, Catcher in the Rye? Shit. The way that, I can't remember his name, hang on. No, I can't remember now. Whatever his name was. Something bad happened to him and his family. I don't remember his whole history, but he kind of like wrote that book in a moment of seclusion, or maybe he became secluded after that, because when the book was published, a critical acclaim, people started reading too much into it and saying, oh, well, this represents blah, 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 and this represents, and really it was just a story about a kid getting out of school. So yeah, basically a lot of literature in schools, I think, is replaced by shit literature in order to make, like, you know, minorities happy, I guess, which is funny because there was one really great book that actually dealt with the concept of racism. Well, before I go and bring you over to my bookshelf, I'll just bring it out now because we're already talking about it. Somebody's home. Shit, do I even have it out? Where are you? Ah! Yeah. Most of you have probably already guessed what I'm about to say. To Kill a Mockingbird. Funny story about this. My school was filled with incompetent teachers and management that was just, head up their ass retarded. And over the summer of 8th grade to 9th grade, I was supposed to read this and write like 30 essay questions about it. Because I was going into upper-level literature classes, you know, college prep-esque classes, which the science of which was fucking hard. The math I failed immediately and went back down to remedial. And the language class I had fun with because it's my linguistics center. My mom was an English teacher. So this with me went hand in hand. But the point is, they gave me Labor Day weekend to fix the problem. They didn't tell me that I had an essay to do, 30 essay questions. They didn't tell me that shit. So they're like, read the book in 3 days and then have your assignment done. I knew somebody who was in, there was like 5 of us all in this boat. 5 students that this didn't tell. From like, you know, different classes who all kind of came together and said, wow, we're really fucking pissed off that you just screwed us over this way. But either way, I read the book, and one of the best books ever written. My personal opinion. Just, you know, it didn't have to beat you over the head, I think, with just white people bad, racism wrong, feel ashamed. It was just a simple little love story that also happened to involve some pretty badass themes. Atticus is like my personal... He's like what I've always wanted to be on the inside, and I think that more people should want to be like Atticus, not Paris Hilton. Like to quote Kick-Ass, damn it guys, doesn't it bug you that everyone wants to be Paris Hilton and nobody wants to be Spider-Man? Yeah, what the fuck's up with that? She has like no tits. I loved Kick-Ass. And speaking of which, fuck the police. I'm gonna go completely off topic and go back to comics real quick. Here's the case. Right underneath my hookah case, I forgot. All of my non-trade paperbacks go into a little case. Why didn't I put that one in there? Oh, I think I ran out of these little things, these little, like, protective slips for these single-shot issues. Kick-Ass 2. I collected the entire non-trade paperback series. Totally worth it. The plot isn't as good as the first one, and it's kind of weird, but I really enjoyed it. For a superhero comic, that's as close as I'm gonna come. Anyway, yeah, Atticus was badass, even as portrayed by Gregory Peck. Fucking badass. Had an amazing scene, and I think actually, ironically, although it's supposed to be about, you know, racism in part, I identified more with Tim Robinson. No, wait, his name's not Tim Robinson. Fuck. What's the black guy's name? The black guy who's, like, has one arm that won't work and is, like, framed, for... Excuse me. Mocha coconut frappuccino, a little bit of coconut was still stuck in my teeth. I identified with him more than I think a lot of the minorities would anyway, because in my... Actually, you know what? That's bullshit, because in my area, we were not actually very friendly. Even though the curriculum stated, oh, you have to, like, replace all of these books with black books. It's affirmative action. Yes, I'm doing that. I'm actually saying that. I'm sorry, Maya Angelou. You're never going to ever be as talented as Harper Lee. She wrote one novel and said, I give up because I can't best myself in my own game. You know, and then just because Oprah backed you, seriously. And that's not to say that Oprah doesn't have a good taste in literature within reason. She did like East of Eden, and Steinbeck is the fucking man. But, okay, comparing East of Eden to, I know what a cage bird sings, is like comparing, like, Andy Warhol to, like, you know, Leonardo da Vinci. Like, you know, you got some gap to clear. Anyway. So, right, I really like To Kill a Mockingbird. But anyway, a lot of the good books were taken out of, you know, curriculum. I thought it ironic that they teach 1984 in high school, and Anthem, which is crap. That was like Ayn Rand's shitty 1984. She took all the themes you were supposed to understand about 1984 and went, but really, rich people are awesome! It was just another way to push her weird objectivist bullshit. Sorry, Patrick, I have to tell you, it's all crazy objectivist bullshit. Oh, and we'll get to that later, because oh no, we won't. I shot up my issue. I took my old copy of Atlas the Thug, and I shot it full of BBs. I left it out in the rain. Yeah, it's gone, buried. Anyway, oh, and by the way, spoiler alert for all of these books. If you see the title, I'll try to keep spoilers at a minimum. So anyway, the time that I really got into reading was about 8th grade, because in 8th grade they gave us several great books to read. They tried to make us read My Uncle Sam, Brother Sam is Dead, which is about the Revolutionary War, and wasn't fucking interested in that, because at that time, everything in history class throughout your entire high school education, or just your entire primary school education in America, all you're ever going to learn about is colonial war, how awesome America was, and then how we enslaved blacks and were bad. And they just repeat that, you know, ad nauseum. And every year, all of the kids would ask, when are we going to learn about World War II? When are we going to be talking about World War II? And they'll say, eventually, you need to know that white people are bad and, you know, America's awesome. Now, what did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? I learned the government must be strong, it's always right and never wrong. I learned that murderers pay for their crimes, even if we make a mistake sometimes. What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? I learned that war is not so bad. I learned about the great ones we have had. I learned about how we fought in Germany and France, and one day I might get my chance. And what did you learn in school today? What did you learn in school? Yeah, Pete Seeger, he was the original badass. Look up some Pete Seeger videos. Look up on YouTube. Look up Pete Seeger, Which Side Are You On? I used to love to drink and listen to that song. Maybe I can just listen to that song now. Anyway, so I'm going to bring you over to my Buddha bookcase. Really tight corner of my room over here, so kind of wish I could get you a better angle, but I may not be able to. This is Buddha. Not really a deity to me, but pretty badass candle holder. Shit. You ever tried lighting one of these on your boot? I tried that. Doesn't work. At least not on the bottom of my boots. So, first thing you might notice, I guess, well, you have Morpheus up here. You got my little swastika cup, which anyone who watched my early episodes would know about swastika cup. You have my lucky, I forgot to mention this in my Warhammer video, got my lucky black die set to 12 for 2012. So far, a really good year for me. Got my bandana that I was wearing while I was in Virginia. That's a whole story that no one's ever going to hear about. First book that's just sitting up on here, Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere, or whatever. A kind of quirky nerd girl kind of came into my store and was all like, hey, I should lend you this book. I don't know how we got talking on Neil Gaiman. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I figured I'd read it and then slip my number in there. And I tried reading it, and like I couldn't finish it because it was just not my style. Just magic is everywhere. Ooh, it was so, oh god. So I didn't finish it, and obviously you can't ask the girl out without finishing it. And she usually didn't come back for she came back like once, and I said, oh, I'm not done yet. And then she came back like 3 months later, and I had already been dating somebody else. And she's been going to Texas for like all the summer for college work, something about translating. Anyway, funny how things don't pan out. There's the Death Note. If you write someone's name in here, well, there's all the, let's block that up so that I don't, there's all the rules about Death Note. The human whose name is written in this shall die. This note will not take effect unless the writer has the person's face in their mind written. Okay, yeah, you watched Death Note, come on. I'm actually just going to pile these books on the floor like a faggot and then just pick them up later. H.P. Lovecraft, Shadows of Death. Another collection of H.P. Lovecraft works. Always worth it. Ironically, I do not have an H.P. Lovecraft work that contains his famous Call of Cthulhu, which all you posers go out going like, Cthulhu, I watched that episode of South Park, so I know. How about reading a book, faggot? All of his work I really enjoy. It may not be as scary today just because we're so over, saturized with, frightening movies. I mean, once you've seen, like, all of Saw and that shit, it's kind of hard to, but if you can get your mind in the right place and really think about cosmicism, his main sources of fright are cosmicism, the idea that we're completely alone in a universe full of, like, mega powerful entities that want to destroy us, elder gods, outer gods, whatever, that don't give a shit about our existence. And conversely, his other theme of horror is forbidden knowledge, stuff we're not really supposed to know. He was the one who created the Necronomicon as well. He just wrote about, he kind of includes it as a running gag in all of his works that, like, all these college professors have heard, because for some reason in his books it's always damn college professors that are always the fucking hero, Jesus. And he talks about how, they've all heard of the Necronomicon, this book written by Ahmad Arab al-Hazred Abzul, who, wrote, like, all these dark alchemic secrets, like resurrecting dead and, like, making potions and shit like that, and the history of the Elder Gods and the Void of Time. And if you read it, you go crazy. You just go crazy from learning things that you're not supposed to learn. Really badass, and actually a common theme in my life. Orson Scott Card, Children of the Mind, and also in the same series, Speaker for the Dead. These are both direct sequels to Ender's Game. I don't have it on my shelf. I was lent that by this girl who I used to know, who used to know me. That's an awkward conversation to have. Who I used to know, really? Guess you're just somebody that I... Play it again on the radio, please. Orson Scott Card, an amazing sci-fi writer. I like him because he uses conservative science fiction. Not meaning like conservative like, I hate Jews and liberals, but I mean like... His science fiction doesn't involve going like, is there a problem? We'll magic it away with science! No plot! No character development. Like, he just uses it as a vehicle to move his characters, and all of their struggles happen within that universe. They don't go, oh, I broke my leg. Well, magic it with science! Like, they don't have to do that. They say they break their leg, oh, we'll put you in a containment unit that can keep you alive for, I mean, he uses it in weird ways. It's a really epic story. It's very conservative. They're not like a million alien species. There are a few alien species. He doesn't go, and that's when the Complordians of the blah blah blah. There's a few alien species that he goes over, and they're very interesting. He reads them in depth and gives you every detail about their existence to the point where you're like, I'm really intimate with these aliens. So, I don't know why this is on the shelf. Zombie Survival Guide. I hate this. I think this is my brother got this for like his birthday, and I liked it away from him. I'm not into zombies at all. I think that everyone who's into zombies is not educated in the actual history of zombies, i.e. when George A. Romero made his first novel, or made his first movie in 1959, it was really a commentary about racism and the slow, lumbering fear of civil rights moving up, and there's going to be problems ahead. And everyone just goes like, yeah, I totally seen 28 Days Later, zombies rule! What's this one? Ooh! The Man in the High Castle. This is by Philip K. Dick. He was a science fiction writer who was heavily influential, but only in the sense that his movies later on, his work later on went to make movies, most famous of which being Blade Runner, based off Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and there was another one, Screamers, made of the third kind, another, what was it called? I forget. Anyway, I was just looking through diesel punk. I typed in diesel punk on the internet, look it up. It's like steampunk except for more. Did you watch any of my last few videos? Go 2 videos back and I'll talk about diesel punk somewhere. Anyway, for some reason this came up. So I bought it, and it's supposed to be set in an alternate universe where then, America lost, and then the Nazis and the Japanese split up the world, and we are halfway in between. His writing style is so god-awful, I couldn't get through it. It's just so damn boring. Another collection, oh no, this isn't a collection, this just is. This is At the Mouth of Madness, one of my favorite works by H.P. Lovecraft. Look into it. They made a comic version of this. I would actually suggest reading the comic version. The reason being that H.P. Lovecraft was a writer in a time when he was being paid by pulp magazines and newspapers to write by the word. So he takes his damn sweet time describing everything, and he over-describes until the point where you're just like, oh my god, I don't care. I mean, like, to the point where you have no image in your head of what he's talking about. He's, like, describing, like, these fossils that these scientists find in Antarctica, and he's like, they were cyclopean-dopian, and they had 1 billion Kajiggers and 90 million Meggers. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What? So, Basic Kafka. This is like the only book I have on Kafka. I only read a few of his short stories. They're interesting. It really makes you understand what Kafkaesque means. Hello. I bookmarked a page. I'm just using this piece of paper. Yes, so the basic Kafka. Most people will just be familiar with the Metamorphosis. It is a very, very good work. I suggest reading the Metamorphosis. Download a PDF, or if you have a Kindle and you're, gay. No, I'm just kidding you. I'm not really against Kindles. It's just... Well, I'll go over that maybe in the end if I have time. So, yeah, really worth the read. This is Treasure Island by R.L. Stevenson. Never really got through it. Got kind of bored with it, actually. So I can't really pretend like I know anything about it. So there you go. That's one of my failures. Some people just buy books and they just don't get interested. All right. Well, this is a VHS copy of Tenchi Muyo, Ryo-Ohki. I did a whole post about this on my Tumblr, www.coolincarnate.com. Girlfriend brought this from work. Said we're never going to use this. Maybe you know about it. I know you know about that. They're animes because she is not into any of this. Let's see. Miyamoto Musashi's Book of the Five Rings. It's supposed to teach you about philosophy, the art of war, and specifically swordplay. I find that it lacks in the sense that the translation cannot really accurately describe to me what the fuck he's talking about with sword form. I wish there was, like, pictures to go along with it, and I'm sure some edition somewhere has that, but... Another collection of works by H.P. Lovecraft, my favorite of this one being The Dreams in the Witch House, which was interesting and tried to be tense, but in the end I find that it really didn't have... It sort of had the ending that I wanted. It didn't really pay off as well as some of his other works, though. The Silmarillion. Tolkien's stuff. I never really got into it. I'm not a Tolkienite. I know a girl, just somebody that I used to... she read all this stuff, and, I don't know much about it. His writing style is amazing, and when you read the synopsis, I think it's really interesting. But to be honest, the majority of the stuff that I know about Tolkien's work comes from reading it all on the internet, reading the synopsis, and also watching the movies. Ooh. Ooh. One of my prized possessions. My grandmother bequeathed to me this. It's called Applied Physiology Primary. It is a textbook from over 100 years ago. Has some names written in the back. God, I can't read you. Can't read those names. Applied Physiology, the effects of alcohol and narcotics. Again, when was it published? Published in New York. 1898. 100 years before I was born. 110 years before I was born. I failed math. So anyway, I would show you some of the... It goes into tobacco. I believe there was some charts in here, wasn't there? Yeah! Fuck you, that might be worth a penny. Yeah, I'm awesome. I have no idea what that is. That was just on there. Just looked old. Alright, it's an old children's book. Don't care. Gawain and the Green Knight. I read this for high school because when I went into homeschooling, the first course that I took was English literature, and man, they made me read. I mean, like, in regular school, what do you read, like 8 books a year? I must have read like 25. And most of these are on the shelf if I haven't, like, ditched them in the basement. Gawain and the Green Knight I really liked. I was really interested in knighthood at the time because I had read Don Quixote. It's somewhere on this shelf, Don Quixote. I don't know if I've ever talked about that in one of my videos. But it's an interesting little epic poem. Go ahead and read it if you get it. Just get the PDF. Seriously, just read it. If you're really into knights and knighthood, if you collect long swords, come on, it's a fucking cool story. Leo Tolstoy's The Godson. Dude, it'll take you 6 seconds to read, and it'll give you some insight onto the writer of, it'll give you some insight into him. It's not peace and war, love and war, peace and, war and peace. Just give it a shot. Don't take too much time. This is called The Wounded Spirit by Frank Peretti. He was a Christian horror author that did mostly stuff I didn't give a shit about. He did one epic one, which is not here on my bookshelf. Look into The Oath. Even if you're not a Christian, it's still a cool fucking horror novel. It really takes... It takes that whole, you're the alien outsider coming into this town where there's something not really right about it, but you can't put your finger on it, really amplifies that. And he takes his time, and it's interesting, and it's not too bad. Just, you gotta get past the fact that no one's gonna swear. There is gonna be violence, though. That's the fucking cool part. The monster in that book. Oh, did I ruin it? No, not yet, not yet. Just go read it. Anyway, this is about being bullied. I got this in, like, middle school when I was, like, really into reading, like, a lot of Christian literature in 7th grade. And, it just talks about, like, bullying and shit like that. It goes into an interesting fucking, oh, I've marked it, an interesting section about supposedly the bullying theory behind why the Columbine kids did their shit. I'm not so sure, and I believe in that because I've been told they had like enough friends. Like, to quote Chris Rock, I saw the picture of the Trenchcoat Mafia. There were 5 kids in that photo. They could have played a half game of basketball. I didn't have 5 friends in high school. I don't got 5 friends now. You know what? Now, this is his actual quote, and I can use this because this isn't the rating of Frank Brady, it's the rating of a dead person who shot himself after killing several students. You know what I love? Natural selection. It's the best thing that ever happened to the earth. Getting rid of all the stupid, weak organisms. But it's all natural. Yes! He had to cut a lot of this out. He, like, censors a lot of what they said because it's like, well, all they would write is the F word. I have read a lot of those kids' writings. They were disturbed. I put no emphasis on what they wrote. Oh, the Iraq study thing. George Bush was the best president ever, and it's all Obama's fault that we are $9 trillion in debt, because those Democrats spend so much money. And it didn't have anything to do with the Iraq War, or the Afghani War, and it wasn't a ploy for oil. You're a fucking retard. Foundation, Isaac Asimov. I never read it. This was one of my dead uncle's books that just ended up on our bookshelf. He was 19 when he passed. Don't feel like going into it. It's family history, but there it is. I just keep some of these things, like that Luger, that famous cap gun Luger that people see me with. They're like, oh my god, is that a real Luger? No, just made back when cap guns could look real. Without, you know, some of the law getting pissed off. The Two Towers. There's Tolkien on the back. Look at that smiling motherfucker. He's happy. There's probably weed in that pipe, dude. Seriously. The Tolkien Reader. No idea. Haven't read. C.S. Lewis, one of my favorite fucking authors ever. If ever there was a badass Christian, it was him. Anything the man touches, I just think was awesome. He just wrote everything with this badass. Look into it. Just look into Out of the Silent Planet or the Planet Trilogy, the Space Trilogy. It's science fiction, conservative 1950s kind of weird, barely there science fiction. It involves the idea that, like, angels are really aliens and shit like that, and like they're just like extraterrestrials that can move through space-time in a weird way, and there's like God is like all existent outside of the planet Earth, which is like being held captive by the, you know, like the force field that Satan created around it and shit like that. Really fucking out there. Everything he writes in this, it's just badass, even for like, you know, Judeo-Christian beliefs. He writes this this one bit where this guy that he's with is getting scared because they're like on these waves, and I think this takes place on Venus, which in their universe they call Paralandra. And he says they're on these massive waves, and he doesn't know if he's gonna be able to like swim fast enough. And they're coming up on a big wave, and he starts saying, "I don't know if I can do it." And Professor Ransom, the main character, says, "Oh, for God's sake, you say a child's prayer if you can't say a man's one." And I'm just like, yeah, it's not bad. I really like him. More J.R.R. Tolkien, Fellowship of the Ring. Read this for whatever. Jerome K. Jerome, 3 Men on a Boat, 3 Men on the Brummel. It's funny in the driest possible sense. If you like British humor, like Brit Wit or whatever, like on MPT, I'm serious. There's like a whole scene in this where they're all going on like this trip upriver in England, and instead of like having them tow their own boat, i.e. one person stands on shore and tows the boat for the other people and they all take turns, at one point they physically tie their boat to someone else who's getting towed, and then the person like looks back and sees them and they're like, and it's really, really, really frosty. Jonathan Swift's Gulliver Travels, it's not really going to be as interesting to you. It's an interesting story, but I find that Shakespeare's The Tempest is similar to this, but more interesting if you don't understand the politics of England at the time. If you do, then Jonathan Swift is fucking hysterical. If you don't understand the history behind it, it's kind of no point in reading it. Lord of the Flies. Look, you went to high school. You know what this is about. You don't need to read the book. An extension, Morrison Scott Card. The Shadow series I have over there, Shadow of Ender. This is Shadow of the Hegemon. I have like all of the Shadow series. It focuses on one of the kids that Ender knew in battle school. It's it's less about science fiction and more about war, like the near future war that may be coming. It's interesting, but the politic talks get kind of boring. More of the Foundation series. The guy who wrote Sherlock Holmes, and again, Sherlock Holmes didn't have automatic machine guns and didn't like do sliding karate kung fu chops, and there was no Robert Downey Jr. Fuck you. He wrote something called, it's very much like Don Quixote, goes right there with Gawain the Green Knight, called The White Company. Look into it. Really fun work. His writing is very supreme. His style is just so, and got this from my grandmother. My copy is well, how do you put it? How do you say it is illustrated? Very nice. So yeah. Moby Dick. I sort of like the story. The philosophy behind it escapes me because I did not read the whole thing. I read a synopsis. His writing style pisses me off. It just seems so gay. If I can say that. Like, he just talks about, for 20 pages, how awesome it is to be a sailor. And I'm like, really? Honestly? Really? Okay. Don Quixote. If you can't get into the language of the writing style of this book, it gets hard to read and you don't like it. If you can get into their magical, like, little universe, then you will really enjoy this book. But you have to think that it's a parody of knighthood. Although, this has a very special meaning for me in my life. I have pictures of, like, Don Quixote up on my wall back there. Anyone who used to watch the old videos can remember seeing those. The very special meaning being that during the French Revolution, this book was kind of used reverse of what it was. The whole gist of the book is that there's this crazy Spanish gentleman who reads a whole bunch of books about knights and valor and is really into that shit, and then he decides he wants to be a knight. And this is like 100 years really past, like, when knights, like, really were important in battle. This is like maybe 200 years past that, because they mention that they have flintlock rifles. You know, some of the guards do. So he decides to go get himself a suit of armor, and he goes around doing all these adventures. Everyone knows the whole thing about the windmills. The guy's crazy, so he sees windmills and sees giants. Well, at the end of the, like, halfway through the book, his family catches up with him and says, dude, you're crazy. You need to be, sent home. So they send him home. They confine him to his library. They take all his books about chivalry away. All the knight books go away. All of his fantasies go away, and the rest of the book is just depressing. It's just depressing. His whole life is just, he's just upset and angry and just not having as much fun. And the whole point that the French had with this is saying that there's really nothing wrong. They said, no, he really was a knight. And the second part of the book is to teach you the lesson that you can't let anyone convince you that you're not right just because you feel that you're right. Like, have you ever felt that you were right because the whole world says you were wrong? And clearly everyone can see where Tolstoy gets that feeling a lot. Douglas Adams, Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide. I have the whole fucking collection. That is right, motherfuckers. They're fun books. Read them if you're on an airplane. They're really light and hysterical. They're not really that in-depth. They don't take, like, a lot of intelligence to get. A lot of people are all like, oh yes, it's very smart. I'm so smart and nerdy that I've read Hitchhiker's Guide. Okay, it's a fun little pop novel. The guy wrote them to be funny. And that's really cool. And I remember I read this around the time that I was playing MDK. So you can see kind of where that wacky science fiction kind of clashed, and I was like, wow, that's fun. Another one in the Shadow series I couldn't finish, got too damn boring. C.S. Lewis, Screwtape Letters. Fucking awesome. Some of the most metal writing ever. I think I've read a line of this before on YouTube. Fucking awesome. Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath. His writing style is simplistic and razor sharp. It is some of the best damn writing I've ever read. He gets right to the point in a way that, like, a surgeon just cuts right in and knows exactly what veins to nick and what not. Very much a pro-socialist message, regardless of how the school system teaches it. And they're not. At the end of reading this in high school, they're like, so, the moral of the story is, go Team America, fuck yeah, capitalism rocks. And I'm like, really? That's the point? I love this one. Book of the Dun Cow. I won't get into it, but it is like an origin mythos, almost like Lord of the Rings or the Silmarillion, but with barnyard animals. The writing in this first one is interesting. There is a sequel to this that I've read that is so dark and depressing. It's better if you just read the synopsis, because the writing gets weird in the second one. I don't know how a writer changes his style like in under 10 years to a point where it's not as good as the original, but the original is awesome. It includes everything. It includes a king, a savior, a demon, a giant war in the end between the woodland animals and a basilisk army. Fucking epic. No, fuck your Harry Potter. Harry Potter can go, I don't know, I was going to say something like really dirty and mean, but seriously though, much better. Altered States. I read this in a part of my life that I shouldn't have. It is deep. Read it. A lot of people will see the movie, read the book. It will give you, oh, I have the jacket on upside down. That's why the letters are appearing on upside down. Yeah. It'll give you an interesting view into nihilism. Nihilism and existentialism. And, like, basically the book is like, alright, so what if the world is nothing? What if all of existence is nothing? It's just no understanding, you have no proof that reality is real. So then die. Yeah, it's really dark. John Milton, Paradise Lost. Very good book. I always love the symbolism in this. I think it should have to do a lot. It has a specific meaning and message, I think, to me, because it casts this charismatic Satan. It's the origin story in Genesis, except for from Satan's point of view. And I like it because it shows all the devils in their damnedhood state thinking, and it's sympathetic to their cause, actually. Which, again, being a young, white, middle-class, suburban American, I feel like there's a war on us. constantly in, like, our culture. Like, you know, the Beatles isn't cool anymore. You're not supposed to listen to the Beatles. You're supposed to wear your pants down around your ankle like a baggy faggot in a ball cap sideways and listen to rap music. And I'm just like, I think I would rather, I'm like the charismatic Satan, I would rather be free and burn in my personal hell of not being accepted than seriously live the way everyone else tells me to live. Never finished the whole thing, don't really like the writing style. Sinclair Lewis, It Can't Happen Here. It is a very nice novel. It was the basis for the original Series V in the 80s by Kenneth Johnson. It's about fascism coming to America. Well, he's a little late for that. He wrote it in the 30s, but he's a little late for that. It's funny. The message came in the 1930s, and he had a poignant message back then. Everyone forgot. Everyone, like, read it and said, "You're right, it can't happen here!" You think that's what he was talking about? Blood and Honor. Epic. Actually, I'm related to somebody who had something to do with this book. I won't mention if it was the editor, the writer, whoever, but I'm related to somebody who, like, worked with this book and knew the guy and had a signed copy. And it's not a very popular novel or anything. It's just about this kid who, it's an autobiography, a kid who grew up in the Hitler Youth, and again, has a lot to do with my personal experience in America, because he talks about when after the crash of Nazi Germany, how he's just stranded out in the middle of the woods because they took trains to escape the bombing. And he said, like, without everyone pumping propaganda down his throat 24/7, he's like, yeah, all this shit that I thought about, you know, the Fuhrer, this is all fucking crazy. The SS is fucking crazy. They were all crazy and lying to me. I have the in-flight class, first class magazine to Douglas Adams' Starship Titanic. The great video game. Played that too. Fun video game. Hamlet. Had to read it for school. I'm not that impressed. I just don't like Shakespeare that much. He's so whiny and emo. Except for Henry V. Fuck yeah. Token on collection. Don't care. C.S. Lewis on collection. Do care. Actually, a lot of his... This is all of his Christian, like, debating books. Back before he wrote that Narnia shit, when he was all like, I'm so depressed, I'll write children's novels now. Jesus. Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. I find it mostly boring, and just the social commentary is, it's okay, but it's not as in-your-face as Steinbeck was. He doesn't, like, use a reductionist argument on why the rich are rich and the poor are poor as much as Steinbeck does. So honestly, if you have a choice between this or Grapes of Wrath, Grapes of Wrath. And we don't really have many books down here. This is all just like instructional manuals down here. I have, oh wait, I do have The Outsiders down here. What did I knock? Oh, Saki said. Outsiders, cool book. I mentioned that before. Mostly just maps and instructionals and Buddhism for Dummies. I had a lot more books before, but for some reason they got cleared off my shelf. I don't know where they are now. So, that was my rant. I am already sweating. Not too hot. This is a linen suit. I'm actually pretty happy about this. I was looking for navy blue, but I managed to find it in black, and, you know, it's not panning out too bad. Maybe I'll still look hot for the bitches this summer. I'm just kidding. There are no bitches. There's one. Anyway. Not that she gives a shit. Some people are like, hey, has she seen your videos? And I'm like, yeah, I showed them to her. She does not give a shit about any of, like, my nerdy shit. I'll just, like, go on rants about, like, yeah, and that's why, like, the Magnum 45 is, like, and she's like, I don't care. So, but whatever. That's the way it goes. So, yeah, that was some of my literature recommendations. There's better literature recommendations out there. Adam Sessler from G4 did one way back on Sessler's Soapbox, and it was a really, really awesome. That guy is like me, but a little more intelligent, a little more charismatic. I found it was really weird that he shaved his head. He's completely bald now. He was like one of my, he's like an iconic thing from my childhood. Not childhood, but like my teenage years growing up. From 13 to 17, 18, I was watching him, and I always loved his kind of like thin, receding, like little comb-over haircut. It was cute in his own little charismatic way. And then he had to shave his head. I guess he just got way too thin, and he started growing like a neck beard, like I got going on. It was just a shock. So all of a sudden turned to G4, because I don't ever watch that shit anymore. G4 used to be awesome back in the day. Now it's just like crap. I'm serious. Now you have, like, on Attack of the Show, rather than having people who actually know what the fuck they're talking about, they just have, like, some sexy girl sitting there who's, like, a total blonde, stupid piece of shit going, and then today, Apple is gonna talk about their new product. And I'm just like, you don't know anything about what you're talking about. Like, seriously, this is not your fucking, you know, forte. However, you're going to talk about this, and stupid, lonely, horny nerd boys are going to watch it going like, yeah, she's totally awesome. Like, seriously, it's just a total bullshit appeal to the mainstream. Pisses me off. But anyway, it was a shock to one day, I haven't watched it in years, turn it on and see Adam Sessler totally bald, and I was like, wow. Hopefully he looks kind of butch. He could probably maybe use to work out a little bit, maybe get a little bit of a better build. Wow, that was a dirt bro thing for me to say, but kind of my opinion. You can kind of rock that bald thing if you're like, like really like, or if you got like cool ass, if you need this glasses, if you can kind of pull off that glasses look. Yeah. Anyway, I kind of feel maybe that I'm sort of like X-Play for the generation before me, or after me, or whatever the fuck you would say. Because I grew up with X-Play, and that was the time in my life when I laughed the hardest, because it was that time when intellectualism was starting to become cool to all the nerd kids at my lunch table, and also we still like poo-poo jokes. So it was like, Austin Powers was funny, and, you know, Britwit was also funny, and X-Play sort of like found the combination in between of a little bit of slightly higher, you know, higher brow and low brow at the same time, mashing together, and I realized, like, maybe I'm kind of the same way for some of the people who really like my videos, you know? And that actually gave me, like, a lot of pride, if that's the truth. I mean, like, you know, the fact that some weird, angsty kids watching me, and my because Tech TV back in the day was shitty. I mean, like, shitty effects, shitty acting, shitty cameras. I loved it. And as soon as they became professional and G4 together, I just like, okay, I hate it. I hate it now. Dumb. So I'm kind of like, if that's what I'm like for kids like me who are now like I used to be, it's not too bad.